Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Diabesity Planet. And I'm your host, Dr. Suleiman Furmli. And so, again, just I've been documenting a 30-day fasting spree. Today, we're going to be talking about, I guess, sort of a starter kit for fasting. But before we do that, I just wanted to dive in and give a few sort of updates on how the fast is going so far. So I've already hit the 15-pound mark, so I've lost 15 pounds already. So the weight loss is definitely there. It's much more noticeable for myself, for my colleagues. Even it's funny because even my wedding ring doesn't really fit me anymore. It just slides right off. So I've even lost some weight in my fingers, and I've noticed the same around my waist and everything. So in terms of the poundage, so yesterday and the day before, I was at 191 pounds, and then today I broke my fast because I was at an event, and I did have some chicken and salad, and that brought my weight up tonight to about 193.4. But again, I suspect it's just temporary, and I'm sure by tomorrow night it'll be back to 191. And I'm hoping that by the end of the weekend I'll be able to hopefully hit the 20-pound mark. So things have definitely been going well, and also my waist circumference is down to 100. So that's really reassuring. And again, so that's sort of about me. And again, in general, I feel great. And it's on top of the added benefits of fasting and um, the sort of uh, the enjoyment that comes along with fasting is I'm now seeing the fruits of the fasting, and I'm seeing my waistline drop, my clothing size drop. Having colleagues and friends noticing, it's an even added bonus. so so again, and also I just wanted to also mention my last couple of videos. I mentioned that it's also really inspiring for me to share these videos with you, and then also to get feedback back from you guys, and having more and more friends and family members wanting to join on and also shed some pounds. Um, I think it goes without saying that um, finding a weight loss strategy that works is extremely elusive. And so now coming across a weight loss strategy that actually works, like definitively, like 100% works, is just simply indescribable. And especially one that works, but that comes with all the other perks of being super easy to do, not complicated, cheap, all that stuff. It's quite phenomenal. So again, and I had some of my close friends and other medical colleagues, take interest in doing this as well, and so I want to congratulate them, and for everybody else who's commented and given their feedback, and are asking the right questions and are interested in this. I wanted to thank you as well because it keeps me engaged and keeps me interested, and reinforces to me that this is something that is something that'll hopefully be beneficial for everyone. So to move on from there, today's video is going to be pretty short. I was asked by a friend to do sort of a quick starter kit for fasting, and so I was just trying to think about what are all the things that you would need to do or know um, before starting a fast. So I'm just gonna go through about 3 to 4 things, because again, this is a really, or it's supposed to be a fairly simple endeavor to do as far as simplicity is and technical things are. So to get started, the first one is about intention and motivation. So I think before you get started, it's important to know why you'd want to start doing a fasting and ketogenic diet, what are your goals? So for some people, it could just be, I want to fit in a smaller size of clothes, or I just want to lose some weight, or it could be broader than that. It could be health issues, could be to prevent diabetes, could be to prevent cancer, could be to cure or treat chronic pain or sleep apnea or fatty liver or all kinds of stuff. So I think it's good to make a good list of all the reasons that you're doing it, for your personal reasons, health reasons, family reasons, etc., etc. And again, if you need some ideas, I actually have a video on my motivations for why I chose to fast. So you can feel free to refer to that video for some thoughts. And again, these are important to have because one, it sets out the reason why you're doing this, but also it's something for you to refer back to while you're in the process, so that it's easy for you to get out of your weaker moments when you need a reason to resist. So I've had to refer to these a few times, and so that really helped me. So after you know your intention for why you're doing it, also make sure this also aligns with your motivation, and make sure that you have the motivation is there and that you're super motivated to do this, because you'll have a much higher chance of success if you're super motivated. And in my case, I was super motivated for so many reasons, including I'm so frustrated by trying so many other things and not having any substantial results, etc., etc. So make sure your motivation is there. If you're not at this level yet, then probably not worth, going to the next level and trying it out, because it's just not really worth it. So number 2, consult. Once you've motivated, you got your intention straight. As a physician, I strongly recommend you to also consult with your physician. Now, the caveat would be is that a lot of physicians, unfortunately, still find this practice of fasting to be a little bit outlandish and extreme, and some might even think it's harmful. And in fact, some of my colleagues also think it's harmful for different reasons. But again, and I wouldn't fault them for that. It comes from a good place, and I'm sure it's well intentioned. But in terms of it is good to speak with your physician just to make sure that there's no red flags and no absolute reasons why you shouldn't be fasting. So, for example, if you're diabetic and you're on diabetic medications, if you fast and you're still taking your diabetic medications, that could push your sugars too low, and that could result in seizure or even death, as well as other things like nutrient deficiencies or Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel, or you've already got things like iron deficiency and other kinds of nutrient deficiencies. And definitely in the case of someone with like anorexia nervosa, things like that, definitely want to make sure that you consult with a physician and get get their approval, or at least make sure there's no red flags before getting started on this. Also, in terms of blood work, I did talk about this in an earlier video, but if you're just sort of the average Joe, not too many health issues, not diabetic and things like that, you probably don't really need any blood work really. But if you wanted to, you could for your own personal reasons or curiosity's sake or academic purposes, you could get some blood work for your A1C level, sugar, your lipid panel, and maybe electrolytes. I don't think you really need it, but that's I guess I'll leave that up to your physician or you to discuss with them. And then after you're done step 1 and step 2, the third step would be to make a rough plan of how you want to schedule or go about your fasting. So you need to know what you're, again, to sort of align it with your goals. So do you want a lot really quick results in a short amount of time? In which case, and would you be willing to put yourself through a continuous fast and to make that happen, or would that be too much for you? And by continuous fasting, again, we're talking about at least about 7 to 30 days, or possibly more, depending on what your goals are. So, is that what you're going for? Because if that's what you're going for, it's maybe slightly different than, I'm okay with losing weight at a slow pace, but I just want something reliable. So then you don't really have to do continuous fasting. You could do intermittent. But if you're someone who's like diabetic, or has a lot of issues, or very, very obese, then perhaps the continuous would work much better for you. Um, and lastly, and maybe some people are like, okay, no, I just can't fast at all. Just give me a better diet. So the ketogenic diet also can help you lose weight. Again, if you can do that and spread apart your meals, that's even better. But if you absolutely have to eat, and then you can do something called fat fasting, which means you basically eat food, but it's mostly fat, so like avocados, almonds, fatty cuts of meat, things like that, so that it doesn't induce a lot of, you're not consuming a lot of sugar or secreting a lot of insulin. So come up with a plan for how you want to do it. So again, there's options are continuous, intermittent, LCHF, just fat fasting. In my case, I started off. My intention was to do a 30-day continuous fast, but it really ended up turning into an intermittent fast, which again I'm totally okay with, and I've still be seeing a lot of good results. So I will probably continue with the intermittent fasting. Um, and then lastly, in terms of things that you will actually need in terms of your dieting. So in terms of what you're going to consume, as we mentioned before, it's mainly four things. So as much water as you want, as much tea as you want, as much coffee as you want. So those are pretty straightforward. Don't really need to talk too much about where to get those from. The last one is bone broth. So a lot of people have been asking me about bone broth and how it's made and how it's acquired, etc., etc. So bone broth is probably best made at home. You just have to go to the butcher shop and ask for bones, essentially. So far, I've been mainly drinking the bone broth of the leg bones, and it has a lot more cartilage and things like that. Bone broth is key because you're able to put in a lot of the electrolytes that you need in there. So electrolytes meaning things like calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and you can also add a lot of salt and pepper in there. And the salt is good to help keep you hydrated and keep yourself functioning. And from that standpoint, and especially if you're doing things like sweating or things like that, you're losing salt. Definitely add a lot of salt and other spices you might like to the bone broth. And so that's why bone broth is good. It keeps you up for a lot of the micronutrients. And so we talked about the four things. So the other things to consume. So we said water, coffee, tea, bone broth. And also, if you're interested in a bone broth recipe, just Google it. Essentially, again, I haven't actually made bone broth myself, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in how to make bone broth. So mainly, my parents have made it for me, or other family members. So I would say to look it up online. From what I understand, that you essentially get some bones, get some seasoning, get some vegetables like onions, things like that. Throw it all in a pot, throw water on it, and just throw it over the stove and in a pressure cooker, I believe, and just leave it on for like 6 to 8 hours, let it simmer, and then, voila, that's your bone broth. So again, I'm not an expert in this. I would recommend you strongly to look for a proper recipe, and if you guys find any good recipes, I'd love for you guys to post it for me, for my benefit, and to hopefully share with everyone else. And other things to consume, you're more than welcome to have a multivitamin once a day if you want. Some people sometimes develop magnesium, so sort of like muscle cramps and things like that due to deficiency of magnesium. And so taking some magnesium supplements could also be helpful. There's one called Natural Calm. That was prescribed at the IDM clinic while I was there. Personally, I haven't used the magnesium, or have I taken a multivitamin. But because I'm kind of doing a mix of continuous and intermittent. I'm still getting enough nutrients in that I don't think I'll need them personally, and I'm also a bit lazy to go and get the multivitamin. I've been meaning to do that, but I haven't. So that's that in terms of the nutrition side of things, and that's pretty much it. So after you have the nutrition down, you pretty much just start fasting and go from there. So, if there's any other questions, anything else that you guys would like me to cover today that I missed, or that you guys would like me to cover in future sessions, please feel free to comment. I do read the comments. I've replied to a lot of them already. So please feel free to comment with any suggestions you might have. And in terms of the next session, I think I'm gonna do another session sort of related to the topic today about how to start fasting. I'm actually gonna try to do maybe 10 to 15 tips on and strategies on how to complete a successful fast. So things like how to deal with hunger and this kind of thing. And again, I still struggle with it as well. Like I said, I wanted to start out as continuous, but ended up being intermittent. So there will be challenges along the way. But the important thing is the goal. The goal is to lose weight, to become healthy, and to prevent disease or prevent worsening of a disease. And that's the goal. And so whether you have to switch between intermittent or continuous or LCHF doesn't really matter. And the matter is that you're making progress, that you're working on it, and that you keep your momentum moving forward. So keep that in mind. Thank you for your attention today, and please tune in next time for another for the next episode of Diabesity Planet. Thanks again for your attention, for your support, for your comments, for your questions, for your engagement. I really appreciate it. And good luck fasting, and good luck with reaching your health goals. Dr. Suleiman Furmli, out.